Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Lifeboat with me, absolutely Arian, and I am excited to get into this topic tonight. So, as you know, it is Mental Health Awareness Month, and so every week, every Thursday at 9 p.m., that's when the Lifeboat goes live. We are talking about mental health related topics. And so last week we talked about anxiety and depression and what that looks like, how to be a supportive in with someone who may struggle with those illnesses. And this week, I want to talk about it from a more romantic relationship perspective. Because sometimes when we have friends, we can lean on them in a different way. But in relationships, sometimes things can become a little bit more tense. And so I brought an expert in to talk to us about relationships. I actually met him a few months ago on Clubhouse. And we ended up doing a few rooms together, and it was really, really great. And I really just enjoy his perspective. He has a platform where he talks about relationships, and I'm going to bring him to the stage right now. Please welcome Lamonte Roberson. Hey, Lamont.
Hey, what's up? What's up? It's good to see you.
Good to see you as well. I'm so excited to have you on tonight because I know that you're going to bless us. You always have amazing perspectives. You have really great thoughts. And I think you're going to just be a blessing to those who are watching. And if you are now watching on the replay, welcome. We're not here, but we'll definitely get to your comments. If you're watching on YouTube, well, welcome as well. Please don't forget to share, like, and just write comments. We love to interact with you and hear what you have to say, what you think, and just give your opinions as well as we go into the topic. So I'm not going to keep us way too long. So I would love for you, Lamont, to just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
So good evening. First, let me start by saying to the lovely, absolutely Arian, thank you so much. Thank you so much for thinking of me. Thank you so much for hosting me in this conversation. I feel quite privileged and quite honored to be on the the Lifeboat tonight.
Yeah. It's a love boat also. It's nothing but love here as well.
So it is my pleasure and my honor. I know you've had some amazing people come before me, so I hope that I certainly measure up to the people that have come.
Absolutely.
My name is Lamonte Roberson. I am a trained mental health professional. I am the published author of one book entitled Love Nuggets. Love Nuggets is a 31-day journey and journal for singles and couples. The book is really designed to be a talking point for people to talk about the various topics related to love and relationships that perhaps they're not considering, or perhaps they hadn't quite had the opportunity to delve deeper into, and to give them somewhat of a ground level conversation to kind of talk with their loved one, with their significant other. And beyond that, I'm also a entrepreneur. I run a private practice, heart counseling and consulting agency, where I provide mental health treatment to clients suffering from severe and persistent mental illness. Beyond that, I'm also the CEO and founder of an up-and-coming restaurant that is coming your way soon.
And he can cook, because I watch your Instagram, what's it called, stories, and I see some of the food that you post, and I'm just like, man, that looks so good. And I'm trying to, lose these COVID-19 pounds, but you just making me want to eat something good.
Well, I can't tell you that the food that I prepare is going to help you lose weight. I cannot promise you that, but I will say that when you've had some, you will enjoy it.
Wonderful, wonderful. So thank you, Lamont, for just giving us that bio. That was really interesting. I didn't know that you did all that work. I know that you obviously did therapy, but I didn't know that you did specifically things with people with more severe mental issues. I didn't know that. So that's really, really cool. And you could obviously add even go even deeper into our topic, because really and truly, we find that a lot of people, especially through the pandemic, and dealing with depression, anxiety,
Yeah.
and even suicide ideations. But of course we know that there's a whole spectrum of mental health issues,
Mhm.
that can go from, and within even anxiety and depression and suicidal ideations, there's a spectrum,
Yeah.
right? So I would love for you to just kind of talk to us a little bit about the misconceptions that people have about mental health issues, and especially when it comes to dating people who have had a, a past with mental health issues, whether it be suicide ideations, whether it be severe depression. But before you do that, I'm going to ask those who are on right now just to let me know where you're watching from. Let us know so that we can interact with you. And please hit that share button, because I promise you this is going to be a really, really informative session. And there's going to be so many people who need to hear this, because mental health is such a taboo. It has been such a taboo topic for years, and we are here to break stigmas and set people free. So that share button, hit those hearts, and let us know where you're watching from. We want to hear from you as well. So go ahead, Lamont, if you can, just tell us a little bit about the misconceptions that people have.
So people have a lot of misconceptions when it comes to mental health. One of the ones that is very frequent among people who are not familiar with mental illness in general is that the person suffering from mental illness is inconsistent or untrustworthy.
Mhm.
A lot of times people think that someone who has mental illness cannot be relied upon.
Mhm.
And the truth of the matter is, in 2021, especially for those of us who identify as Black or African American, we are struggling with some level of severe and persistent mental illness.
Mhm.
If that isn't because of race relations in the US, that's because US and abroad,
Mhm.
that's because of childhood related traumas. And so all of us are struggling with some level of mental illness or another. It's really just about identifying what it is and then cultivating and developing the tools that allow us to be healthy, functioning adults as best we can. And so
Right.
to that end, I would say that another one of the misconceptions is that the individual that is struggling with mental illness cannot be helped or it can't be managed. Uh,
Right.
when the opposite is true, a lot of times when given the right tools, when given the right resources, when given the right support, any individual can begin to, as I like to say, move along the stages of change, or can begin to develop a more holistic lifestyle when
Right.
presented with opportunities, should they choose to take advantage of it.
Wonderful. And that is true, is that because, I myself in the past, I talk about it all the time on the Lifeboat, about the bouts of depression that I've had, and suicidal ideations and suicide attempts.
Mhm.
And um and I was told by someone who I respected that I should never share that testimony or that struggle with anybody. I should never tell that to anybody, because people would stigmatize me and for the rest of my life. And so I was kind of or they tried to put a muzzle on me in sharing me overcoming that. And so they also thought that it would hinder me in finding a potential life partner, because they would maybe look at me as a liability, as opposed to someone who could be a healthy partner for them, because I could potentially revert back to suicidal at any point, and that might, scare them off. And I'm here to say that I am someone who had and struggled at one point with severe depression, that struggled with suicidal ideations, that had a suicide attempt. And since that time in my life, that was about over 15 years, it was about 17 ago that this happened. And I have never attempted another suicide attempt. I have never dove back into such a deep depression. Of course, you have little bouts of depression here and there and anxiety, but I have never gone back to the place of wanting to take my life again. And now this may not be everyone's testimony, but I got help. I went to therapy, and sometimes guess what? You need a little medication to help you get through that stage in your life so that you can have some clarity. And so I did a lot of those things. And also for me, who I'm a believer in Christ. I had a prayer life. I definitely got closer to God, got into His Word, and realized that I was going to find peace in Him, and that I should cast my burdens, at the cross and at His feet. And so, all those things put together is what helped me get to the place that I am, and not to return to that really devastating place. And a lot of people who know me and have been in contact with me would never know that that was once my struggle. And so that alone would break the behind, well, if once you've had mental health issues, that you're always going to be in that space, and that you're not going to be a healthy partner in a relationship, and that's just not true.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I think that we are slowly but surely growing in our culture and growing in our society to a place where mental health isn't as taboo as it was, and it isn't as stigmatized as it was. So it really depends a lot on the region of the world that you live in, the culture of the people that you associate with, and a lot of times even the socioeconomic background of the individuals that you're talking with. And so all of those parts play a factor in the stigmatization. But I like to suggest that the more we become in tune with ourselves, and the more we become aware of who we are as individuals, the more aware we are of the issues and challenges that we're facing. I believe that it isn't until we begin to normalize mental health in such a way that allows us to not stigmatize people, but also make it a part of our normal day-to-day life. The sooner we begin to do that, the more people will begin to get help, and the less of a stigma it will become, and the less challenges we'll face as individuals. Because when people recognize that they're stigmatized, a lot of times they go into hiding about it. A lot of times they can, someone gave you the advice that you should keep that to yourself, or they tried to muzzle you. But we are all aware of ways in which we're treated differently when someone learns something about us. And the sooner we get beyond that place, the more we can create this culture and society that allows people to get the help that they need. And ultimately, we can build a better world for the people around us. Because if we're hiding those things, if we're hiding our struggles, our mental illness, ultimately we're suffering by ourselves. But not only are we suffering alone, when we have completely fallen down, or when we no longer have a hold on the thing that we're struggling with, it shows up and it becomes harmful to other people, when it didn't always have to be that way. It didn't necessarily have to get to that point, provided that you felt safe enough to seek help and support. And as someone who has also struggled with mental illness myself, I have found that it was when I was willing to be honest with myself and transparent with the people closest to me that I was able to get the support and the help that I needed.
Absolutely. That's great. And thank you for your transparency, and just sharing that, that you also have struggled, because a lot of people have, and we just kind of don't, a lot of the times people don't want to talk about it. You're right that it's a lot less stigmatized, but we're also not at the stage yet where I can say I'm that someone can say I'm schizophrenic and it be received the same way as someone saying I'm diabetic.
And what we're talking about is two things. On one hand, we're talking about the overarching understanding that individuals struggling with mental illness are stigmatized, and that's a truth. That's a fact, and we know that to be true. On the other hand, we're also talking about how things have progressively changed over time, and even things are changing in such a way that are very powerful, in that even today, as a mental health professional, one of the things that I seek to do is really remove the person from their mental illness. And so when treating someone who is suffering from schizophrenia, I encourage them not to say that I am a schizophrenic, because
Mhm.
that they identify it in such a way that it becomes a part of who they are, as
Mhm.
opposed to saying this is a challenge that I'm facing, or this is a struggle that I have. And
Right.
so I am, again, very grateful for this conversation, because we want people to know that we understand what it means to be stigmatized. We understand the challenges around being stigmatized
Right.
because of mental illness. But we also want people to know that things are changing. So you can come out from where you are. You can stand up and say, hey, listen, I need some help. I'm struggling in this area. And how can you help me? And they can get the help that they need.
Wonderful, wonderful. And thank you so much, Taylor, for sharing. I really appreciate that. And I'm so glad that Afia decided to join us tonight as well. Thank you so much. I hope you shared it as well, Afia, because as you know, this, as I said earlier, this topic is something that I feel like everyone needs to hear a little bit about, because, you know, education is really the key. And a lot of the times the reason why there are stigmas is because people are not as educated on a topic. The reason why there's fear behind people who may have mental health challenges is because of the lack of education. And so the more that we understand, the more that we can talk about it, is the more that we can educate, and we can, you know, begin to dismantle may have mental health challenges is because of the lack of education. And then the more that we can talk about it, I'm getting like, are you hearing like that? And dismantle. Hello?
I'm here.
Okay, sorry. I couldn't, my sound just went crazy there for a minute. I'm sorry. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of dive into, like, more from a relationship standpoint. How would you, in your opinion, somebody who may be struggling with mental health challenges, how, but you know, they're in recovery, they're in remission, or they're just in the process of healing, because we know that healing is not just a one-time event, it's a continual process. But in the process, there are times where we can be triggered. And what is triggered, for those who may not know what that word means, is that when you have an instance of being reminded of a past trauma that you experienced, and are now being or experiencing that again in your present moment, because of something that may have reminded you of something that happened to you in your past. Is that clear?
Absolutely.
If you could maybe make a, you're the psychotherapist, like, is that when you have an instance of being reminded of a past trauma that you would clear.
Absolutely.
If you could maybe make a, you're the psychotherapist, like, you have an instance of being reminded.
Yeah, I lost sound for a second. I hope you can hear me pretty well.
Okay, yes.
So do me a favor, just ask your question really quickly one more time.
Okay, so I was just saying, do you, I was just asking if you could give us a little bit of advice on how to deal with, you know, somebody who, if you're in a relationship, let's say, with someone who has had past mental health, you know, issues, or are going through the process of healing. As we know, healing is not a one-time.
Sure.
It's sometimes, you know, a perpetual event, you know, and so in that journey, sometimes we can be triggered.
Sure.
And so I was saying, if you are in a relationship with someone who may be, you know, have mental health challenges around anxiety, depression, you know, or anything on that spectrum, and they are now triggered, not necessarily relapsing, but triggered, how or what kind of advice would you give someone in a romantic couple, whether it be a marriage, a, you know, committed relationship, so on and so forth?
Sure. So a couple of things come to mind. I think it's really important for single individuals to do a very thorough assessment or vetting process when it comes to the dating experience early on.
Mhm.
In doing so, it will allow you the ability to gather information about the person that you were considering being in relationship with early on, so that you can make a very well-informed decision about whether or not you want to go into a relationship with them.
Right.
To that end, I will also add that it is important to make sure that we take our time in the single stage to make sure that we've given enough time for the various facets of that person's personality to show, so that we can make wise decisions. Sometimes
Right.
we can jump into relationships very early without giving enough time to really get to know that person and develop a healthy friendship first.
Mhm.
And in doing so, sometimes individuals find themselves in relationships with people who are struggling with some level of mental illness, and they're really not sure what to do. And so I'll talk first to the person who's in a relationship with someone who has a mental illness, and then I'll also talk from the perspective of the person who is struggling or suffering from a mental illness.
Right.
In talking first to the person who's in a relationship with that person, my first encouragement to you would to really just be to be as patient as you can with that person, because I understand as a mental health clinician that individuals struggling with us with some level of mental illness already are feeling some level of isolation already. And
Mhm.
so that isolation that people struggling with mental illness can experience can be compounded when the person that they're in relationship with doesn't understand them,
Woo.
doesn't have patience with them, doesn't really give space for the challenges that they're facing, and create an environment, a healthy environment for them to talk about their experience and what's going on when they are experiencing symptoms of or triggers from their mental illness. And so my
Right.
encouragement to them would be to be patient and that is of course after they've decided in the vetting process, after they've decided, hey, listen, I know this person is struggling with mental illness, but I want to be in community, I want to be in relationship with them anyway.
Mhm.
My encouragement would be to first be patient with them. My second encouragement would be to really posture themselves, and I talk about this a lot in my book, Love Nuggets, to really posture themselves as a student, as,
Right.
as if there is a student-teacher dynamic. I would go as far as to say that that's the kind of attitude that each of us needs to have, regardless of whether or not mental health exists in the romantic relationship,
Right.
but particularly when mental health is a challenge in a romantic relationship. When one postures themselves as if they are a student and they desire to learn, it really creates a space of openness in the relationship where the two people can grow together in a healthy way and really begin to overcome together the challenges that are faced when one partner is struggling with mental illness.
Right.
And so those are my two pieces of wisdom to offer the person who's in relationship with someone. Be patient and really come with an attitude or a posture as if they are a student seeking
Mhm.
to learn. And in doing so, it will allow them to address various things that come up in a partnership as if they
Mhm.
were a team. For the individual, on the other hand, for the individual who is trying to navigate their mental illness along with romantic relationship and they are struggling with mental illness, my encouragement to them would be to really work diligently on developing a toolkit, so to speak, on how to manage their mental illness along with their relationship. And so there are a variety of ways that I encourage couples to do this, and I encourage individuals to do that. But one of the chief ways, one of the primary ways, is to seek out a mental health professional, seek out a counselor.
Right.
Because it's in the therapeutic space that people can get the tools, the resources, and the skills they need to manage their mental illness for themselves, and to manage the mental health challenges that they're facing for themselves, along with all of the other things that come along with being in relationship. So the first thing would be to seek out a therapist. The second thing would be to really harness the skills and tools that they're getting from therapy and that they've learned along the way about themselves. So,
Mhm.
for some of us, that means, as you said earlier, really leaning into your faith as your foundation, as your core, and cultivating that relationship that you have with God or the higher power that you believe in. You and I
Mhm.
identify him as Jesus. So, uh,
Mhm.
you know,
Hallelujah.
and beyond that, other skills that can be used is journaling. Really setting aside some time to kind of journal and process on their own the various things that they're having, various experiences that they're having on a daily basis can be extremely, extremely helpful.
100%.
Other tools and skills that I would encourage is that person struggling with this mental illness is to try and be as communicative as possible to their partner. Because their partner may not be able to identify with their struggle, their partner can at times struggle with feelings of inadequacy and helplessness because they want to be a support, they want to be a help, but they are not sure what to do or how to do it. And so to the partner that has the mental illness, when you communicate, hey, listen, this is what I'm going through, these are the experiences that I'm having, these are the feelings that I'm having, it really can allow, again, for a partnership to take place where the two people really begin trying to overcome and conquer challenges that they're facing in a healthy way. And ultimately, it has the potential to really create a very powerful bond and connection between the two people. So those are two things I would recommend.
I mean, absolutely. That was phenomenal. I really love that because I think they both go hand in hand, and I think that one, like you said, I love the analogy you made of one being a student and one being a teacher, because it really sometimes, especially if you don't know, everyone's triggers are different. Everyone's anxiety or depression manifests differently, and so you have to really get to know your partner. You can't, yes, you can go and read about it and read about whatever you want online, but sometimes, and that will help, but sometimes just getting to know your partner personally, and knowing what they may need when they are having an episode, you know what I mean? Or if they're being triggered in that moment. So I really love your answer. I think also I have been someone who has struggled with anxiety, and so I never was somebody who I never had a Dear Diary. I've never been someone who necessarily used to write my feelings down on paper and books, but a friend of mine recommended that I keep a mindfulness journal. And a mindfulness journal really, for those who may not know, is really just being able to hone in your emotions, your bodily senses, your smells, everything that you're experiencing in that moment, and be present in that moment and not allow the past to dictate what you're feeling right now, and not let the fear of the future dictate what you're feeling now, but to really just be aware of what is going on in that very moment, and writing that down so that you can kind of just really be more self-aware, and so eventually you're able to your awareness is going to be more sharpened, and therefore you'll be able to know what your triggers are, what situations really raise your anxiety levels, and once that's documented, you can now learn how to avoid those kind of situations. So mindfulness journals really, really help, and it's really helped me. So I love that advice. It was really great. And I see Jopa here. She wrote something really interesting. She said, I think it would be great to talk about the challenges women face with being stigmatized as it relates to mental illness. So many women have been called crazy when displaying their emotions. But if they just so happen to be a woman who truly suffered from mental illness, that label can stick in the back of their minds and ultimately cause them to refrain from displaying any emotion at all. They no longer desire to be vulnerable because they don't want to be viewed as mental or crazy. Jopa, and I hear you on that one, and I agree with you. That whole "she's crazy" stigma is a really, really I don't even know what to say, but
loaded.
It is loaded. It is so loaded, because we hear that, especially in the dynamics of a man and a man's ex-girlfriend is always that she's crazy part, and like we never understand what really happened, and sometimes there are mental health issues behind there as to why people behave the way they do, and a lot of it goes undiagnosed. And so there's a lack of just consciousness of what is going on, and so people just divert to, oh, she's crazy, without realizing that she is probably experiencing PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so
If I were to add anything to what you said, I would say first, it's important to me to acknowledge as a man that that is an unfortunate and very honest and very transparent and very true lived experience among women.
right.
Unfortunately, we live in a culture and society where the instead of us really seeking again to be students, to have this posture of a student, we label people much more quickly, and a lot of times men unfortunately do that when they are being faced with a level of emotion, a level of response, if you will, that they don't know how to manage. And
Right.
so the only thing they can do is call it crazy, when in fact it's probably not crazy at all. And in some cases, it's actually a very normal, natural response to some foolishness that has
Right.
gone on. But to that end, I will also say that it's really important for women, and those of you that are watching that are women, I think that it's really important to work diligently on doing the work for yourself, to knowing who you are, being okay with who you are, loving who you are, and being at peace about the various facets of who you are as a person, regardless of whether or not that has mental illness associated with it. Essentially, what I'm saying, when you know who you are and you're at peace with who you are and you love who you are, it can allow you to manage that kind of horrible, disrespectful feedback in a way that allows you to keep it pushing, to move past it, and to make wiser decisions about the person that you choose to be in relationship with.
Right.
Anytime you're expressing your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions, and that person's response is "you're crazy," it's probably an indicator that that person is just not the best person to be in community with and to be in romantic relationship with, because you want to be in a relationship that is a safe space for you to express your thoughts, express your feelings, and at times not necessarily manage those emotions well, but your partner is so devoted to working through whatever's going on between the two of you that you can mismanage your emotions in a moment. You can behave in a way that may not necessarily be inappropriate, and the two of you can still work through the things that are wrong in a way that is honest, in a way that is respectful, in a way that is appropriate. Is that to say that any person should give room for someone to behave in a way that is inappropriate emotionally all the time? No. But what it is to say is, you want to be in a relationship and you want to be in a partnership where you know that if you don't get it all right in a moment, there's grace and there's love and there's
Absolutely.
for you to talk it through and you to develop habits and strategies that allow you to get better at managing your thoughts, your feelings, and disagreements when they occur.
Absolutely. That was perfect. I love that answer. And apparently Jopa has loved your response as well. Thank you so much, Jopa. I'm glad that we were able to address your thoughts, and thank you so much for contributing to the conversation. I hope you hit that share button, Jopa, so that other people can also hear this great advice that Dr. Lamonte Roberson is sharing with us on tonight. So, and if you are on here still, please, and you have not hit share, please go ahead and hit that share button, because this is a conversation that is really important for all of us to be having in our own communities, and really just being able to have a better understanding of how to be kinder to one another and understand one another. I think something that you said that was really interesting, about just being with someone who can have the patience to really hone in on why your response is the way it is, and not just call you crazy. And that requires, obviously a certain level of emotional intelligence. It requires someone who has, a certain maturity. And I think someone who is just very has a level of competency when it consciousness and awareness.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that uh, I don't know that everyone is quite there yet, because and I think that this comes with understanding just, I think, how emotions and how mental health really, I want to hone in really on this, on how mental health can really affect one another, and how our words can really be damaging. And so I think it's so important for us to be able to just be intentional about what we say, be conscious about how we say it, and to remember always to use love at the forefront of it all. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, there is love on this lifeboat.
Yeah. Something else you said that I really appreciate and I really like is talking about the words that you use when talking to your mate and communicating with your mate.
Yeah.
And in my book, Love Nuggets, one of the things that I talk about is how words are the needle and thread to the fabric of your relationship.
Right.
And if not healthy, if not careful, those the same words can really leave huge gaps in the fabric of your relationship. And so, word choice is extremely important.
Absolutely.
And couples who are cognizant and careful and or mindful about the words that they use really have the ability to build a healthy relationship long term.
Absolutely.
I like to say that a lot of times couples speak the same English or the same language, but they speak a different dialect.
That's so good.
Thank you.
I
And so,
love that.
yeah, and what I mean when I say that is sometimes people can be speaking English just as we are now, but our words can be communicating messages that we are not intending to receive, or that one person needs to receive, but they are not receiving the messages. And so communication is an important aspect of the love relationship, and particularly when you are struggling with mental illness, because sometimes you don't have the words to verbally articulate your experience.
Right.
And so being patient with your mate while they find the words, and working with them to help them find the words, and that person, the person struggling, working diligently to find the words, is a process in and of itself.
Right.
And when two people have really begun to delve into that and work diligently on it, the results can be magnanimous, powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I mean, and I don't want to be, just like cliche, but communication really is the key.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it really, and being conscious of the fact that sometimes the way that what you say can be decoded differently than how you wanted it to be received.
Yeah.
And that's why I love your analogy of speaking the same language but different dialects, is just like the perfect way to put it, because even, culturally,
Yeah.
you can be African American, but within our subcultures, within our families, or even within different states, North and South, and there are subcultures within the African diaspora, right? And so what one word could be respectful for you can be disrespectful for me.
Sure.
You know what I mean? A word that you use could have been, okay in your family dynamic, but not okay in my family dynamic. And so, that alone is something that can be challenging when you're trying to blend two different lives together that are coming from two different backgrounds, two different socioeconomical backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, religious backgrounds, all kinds of educational backgrounds. There are so many different facets to how communication can be jumbled up and misconstrued, that you really, in order to make relationships are hard enough, but if we don't get this communication thing down pat, it will really just kind of go derail.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
there's so many things related to communication that are important. You know, one of the things I like to share with couples is that your timing is extremely important. You know, your tone is extremely important. You know, and so those two things alone, when there is a disconnect in one of those areas, it can cause huge problems. You know, I thank you, Japa, for jumping in and adding that to the conversation, because it's making me also think about the various ways in which men and women show up to relationship. And
Right. And that is another dynamic too, right? Not even
very
the
much
family
so.
and all that stuff, but just even different sexes, men, men.
Yeah. And a lot of times, in my opinion, women have skills and tools that their male partners don't have. If we're talking about a
Right.
heterosexual normative relationship,
Right.
a lot of times there are skills that women have, i.e., verbally expressing how they feel.
Right.
That men don't have, which in turn makes them respond by saying, "Oh, she's crazy," which is not necessarily the case.
Right.
May or may not be struggling with mental illness, but my experience has taught me that a lot of times men do not have the skills to manage emotional response to something that has happened, or manage their own internal emotions. And so
Right.
that lack of emotional intelligence, if you will, or that deficit or challenge within themselves when it comes to their emotions, really shows up in its relationship, in people's relationships, in some very challenging ways that can make a loving relationship challenging all by itself. Add to that mental illness, wow, there's a lot. There's a lot
There's
to
a
be.
lot. There's a lot, and that's why you know, it's so important to have patience. It's so important to, you know, to dig deep and to just get it out there and really try to put your best foot forward when, you know, when in a relationship, because uh, both parties really need to participate in order for it to kind of get the train going, you
Yeah.
know. And so I love what you said. I think it's just that you are perfect for this. And I'm so glad that you were able to join the Lifeboat tonight and grace us with your knowledge and your presence. Thank you so much. We're coming up to 45 minutes, so that's basically it for tonight. I would love to keep going, but you know, I love to be respect people's time. So I just want to thank you so much, and I would hope that if you guys are on here right now, that if you haven't hit share, I would love for you to go and follow. If you can tell us, Lamonte, where people can follow you, how they can get in contact with you, and how we can get your book.
Sure. So I'll share how to connect with me, and then I will share my last little tidbit for individuals in relationship and
Right.
mental illness, and I will wish you all an amazing night. So if you are looking to reach me, if you're looking to find me, you can find me on all social media platforms at OLR Speaks. You can find me on Facebook at OLR Speaks. You can find me on Clubhouse at OLR Speaks. You can find me on Instagram at OLR Speaks. If you are looking to get a copy of my book, you are welcome to reach out to me on Instagram. I will be happy to send you a signed copy of the book. If you just send me your information, I will be happy to share with you a copy of the book. Or you can find it on Instagram. In the bio section of Instagram, you can also find a link to purchase it off of Amazon. For all of my Prime customers, you'll get the book right away if you want it. If you are looking to be a blessing to me in the work that I'm doing, you can also cash at me at $Mighty, MIGHTY ROBE. That's Mighty Robe. You can cash at me there. And I am very
Mighty Road, ROAD.
ROBE. Mighty
Robe. Okay.
Mighty Robe, $Mighty Robe. You can cash at me there. For those of you who are looking for a signed copy of the book, that's actually what you would do. You cash at me the cost of the book, which is $25. This is what the book looks like.
Wonderful.
You would cash at me. I would be more than happy to send you a copy of the book. And so final thoughts when it comes to love and relationship, those who are struggling with mental illness and those who are not, I really believe that there are three types of people that each of us needs to have when it comes to cultivating healthy relationship. And so if you will engage me, absolutely, Arian.
Absolutely.
I want to offer three types of people. And the first person is someone who is exactly where you are. Someone who is exactly where you are. Ask me why.
Why?
Because someone who is exactly where you are can identify with what you're going through currently. So if you are in the third year of your marriage and you are trying to figure out why he keeps leaving the seat up, and you're trying to figure out why she keeps putting the toothpaste in the cabinet, you want to have people who you can complain to, vent to, and talk to about this experience that you're having in your relationship. The saying is true. It has been for many years. Misery loves company. So having someone who can identify with your struggle, identify with your challenge is absolutely pivotal and vital. The second person that you need in your community, in your circle, in your toolbox when building and cultivating a healthy relationship is someone who is much further along than you are. Arian, please ask me why.
Why?
The second person is someone who can help you navigate the ups and downs of relationship. It's someone you can turn to when things are going awry, when things are going down. It's someone whose feet you can sit at and they can say, listen, I understand, I know, but you can make it.
Right.
Ideally, that's someone who will also say, come on, let's pray together. These are some scriptures that I use to make it through these rough seasons. It's someone who you can say, hey, listen, I've been with him 10 years, but yesterday I almost ran him over with my car. I'm going to need you to tell me how you made it to 15, how you made it to 20, because it's not looking so good for us. And the third person, I think, is the most powerful person. I think the third person is extremely important. Arian, please ask me why.
Why?
The third person, Arian, is someone who puts purpose behind your pain. They give reason for the tears you cry. It allows you to have someone who you can say, listen, I've cried the tears you cried. I've faced the challenges you face. I've been where you are. You can make it. These are the things that I learned. These are the tools I use. These are the scriptures I read that helped me make it to the 10-year mark. So I know you're trying to get there. I know this season is difficult, but it gets better. They put purpose behind your pain. They explain your tears real time. And so those three people are extremely important in really cultivating and building the healthy relationship that we're longing for in 2021.
Wow. That is powerful. That is wow. That was really, 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 really good. Wow. Great closing statements right there.
It's create those relationships and we build a community that we also address the stigma that we talked about earlier. Because
and guess what? Those three attributes that you're looking for doesn't have to be in one person.
No, it doesn't.
Because sometimes we can't get it all in one person.
Yeah.
But we have community, we have friends, you know what I mean, that we can also, reach out to, who can maybe be someone that we can talk to, who can also mentor us, who can, just people, like you said, who have more experience. And so, of course, we would love to find all these attributes in one person and in one partner, but maybe they might only have two of those. So maybe, you can rely on someone else in that community that you to help you in that area that they may not be that great at. You know what I mean? So I think your advice is awesome. I think I'm gonna have to make a little clip of that part right there and put it out here on these Instagram streets, because that was phenomenal. And I think we need to definitely hone in on those three attributes that we have to find in order to cultivate a healthy environment. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much. So guys, if you're still watching, if you're watching on the playback, make sure that you do hit share on this video now. I'm counting on you to hit share, to like, leave a comment, and then if you also want to follow Lamonte, you should see at the bottom of the screen, it's scrolling across. so that you can follow him on all social media platforms. And if you would like to get his book, that is his Cash App right there. Or if you just even want to bless him right now, go ahead and hit his Cash App and bless the man of God.
I cannot. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a joy, and I look forward to the opportunity to jump on the lifeboat again.
Oh, absolutely. We have to do a part 2 because this was just too juicy.
Yeah, one of the things I think it would be cool to talk about next, when you're ready, is the qualifying criteria to those 3 types of people.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is, not everybody, not all the friends that identify with your struggle are good people to be a part of that community.
Right, because sometimes misery just likes company, huh?
Yeah, you talking right. Sometimes
I'm preaching better than your amen in.
Amen.
Thank you, Yvonne, for watching. Yvonne Alexander, thank you for your encouragement. I hope you shared it, Yvonne. And Deborah, thank you again for joining us. If you joined us late, make sure you watch the beginning of this because this was so good. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Deborah, for watching as well. Make sure you hit that share button as well so that other people can hear this video. I promise you, go back and watch the replay. You are going to be truly blessed. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Lamonte, for joining me tonight. Thank you for just lending us your brain and giving us such great advice. This is what the Lifeboat is about. It's about really transparency and also just sharing life lessons that we've learned along life's journey so that other people can hone it, can glean from our experiences and not have to necessarily make the same mistakes or go down those same roads. And so it's really about giving people another opportunity. It's really about rescuing people who may be in distress, and really giving them, another perspective. So thank you so much. I'm going to put you backstage now. Again, like I said, you can follow him. Look at the bottom of the screen. It's scrolling across if you want to follow and bless OLR Speaks, and make sure you follow him on all of the platforms as well. Thank you so much. I'm going to meet you backstage in not too long, okay?
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Good night. So thank you so much again for joining me tonight on the Lifeboat. It's been an amazing night. I really enjoyed this topic, and I hope you did as well. We really need to work more as we've come when it comes to mental health and talking about it. And I'm so excited that, as a community, we can, work on breaking stigmas and, setting people free. So you can also help by sharing this video, liking, and then starting conversations within your families and communities so that, it becomes normal for us to have these kind of conversations and it not be taboo. So thank you again for watching tonight. We will be back again next Thursday with another episode of The Lifeboat with me, Absolutely Arian. But until then, sail on.